Drive is huge. Blizzard took a huge risk that divided Warcraft players. I mean, what's the risk? I wonder what this is about. Plunderstorm is the most divisive thing I've seen. It's ridiculous how Plunderstorm has divided the player base, because players think that by making this PvP game, which is not for them because they're not PvPers, even though I'm not a PvPer and I enjoy Plunderstorm, they think that Blizzard wasted their time making that thing. That was divisive. But what is Belial talking about here? Let's see what he has to say about this divided Warcraft player base.
World of Warcraft has literally never felt like this before. And if the best of this is the future of getting around in World of Warcraft, Blizzard have absolutely nailed it. And that's because where dragon riding was a little bit of physics added to riding around the place, Blizzard basically went completely mad with Drive. This is full-on gameplay. It is basically playing Mario Kart to get from quest to quest, and at times, the best of times...
It looks kind of fun, but man, you're flying. Holy crap. People are going to get freaking like car sick doing this shit. You're going really fast. And then the way things are flying by you, like, wow, is it made to go this fast? This kind of looks crazy. But all these mechanics they put into this is why I say, like, I think this drive mechanic is going to go beyond just this. Like, I don't think it's going to start and end with 11.1. I think this will continue on. Maybe we'll get dynamic ground mounts eventually.
It even
fucking
feels
Mario
like
Kart,
Crazy Taxi, like some proper arcade
Crazy
kart
Taxi,
racing
I said that last time.
somehow works in World of Warcraft. Mostly, anyway.
Oh, God.
And I say mostly because
running
to
into
me,
objects.
This is so fun. But there's an asterisk. You know, they always say the monkey's paw curls, and this time, I'm going to predict one thing. Some people will absolutely love this. I'm one of them. I love Plunderstorm. But a lot of people are going to hate this.
Oh, God.
So let's dive in.
Oh,
Check out
God.
today's sponsor. They're one of my favorites because they allow you to actually benefit from the law and your rights. Let me explain, right?
The law?
Here's the deal. Data brokers exist in the internet, and they harvest your data any way that they can because they are, I think, unscrupulous. Now, they then sell that data, and that can be sold to anyone, and that can mean you'll get robocalls, you'll get spam, there can be security vulnerabilities, especially social engineering, the more that people find out your data. And whenever a big corporate data leak happens, well, that data often ends up being gobbled up by the brokers. And
Crash Tag Team Racing? Man, that was a good one. What about Diddy Kong Racing?
It is a superpower. You see, the point is we have a legal right to have our data taken down from a company. You can literally go, write up the email, do all the things and send it. But that's going to take you hours. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to spend my free time doing that. And even if you do that, you can be recollected again. So here's what Incogni does. It scans the brokers, automatically sends the takedown requests, and it adds you to suppression lists. And best of all, it will continually rescan to keep your data down. Wow. So here's my dashboard, 114 sent, 8 in progress, 106 completed. I'm on 21 suppression lists. And you can see the spikes in the graph as an example, I added a new home address and email address to it, and just them doing continual rescanning. It's awesome. And the upshot is really simple. My data is not being spread about the place without my knowledge or consent. I care about that. I don't want that data going all over the place. I'm sure you don't either. Incogni means you can actually benefit from the laws that have been designed to protect us, but that we're just not able to access because they're jumping through hoops and it's all arcane bollocks. So
no, it's not interesting.
60% off the annual plan at incogni.com/.
I'm trying to help the man out. He's running an ad. Use his code Bellular Warcraft. Do it, okay? Help the man out.
I use them personally, and I
He's
very much
coming in with the honesty.
Undermine grants you a zone-wide ability to summon in the G99 Breakneck, which is your sort of mount thing for this patch. And it's basically so fast that it feels like a private server.
Yeah, it's sort of a mount because it's not a mount. It doesn't qualify as a mount, which is I thought was crazy, but it's a vehicle. That's what it is. When you summon it, this is an in-game vehicle. It is not a mount. It will not count towards any mount achievements. It will not show up in your mount tab or anything else.
Or console command. Don't worry, I wouldn't know what that feels like. Now, the slowest engine of the 3 you can customize goes from 0 to 714% move speed in about a second. The fastest engine takes a little bit of time to get going, but caps out an absolutely massive 1,143% move speed, and the engine that you start with is the middle of them. It hits 857% speed in just a few seconds. So, you know those videos of people sitting in like a Tesla or some electric car, and they're blown away by how crazy the acceleration is. It almost feels like a launch coaster. That's kind of what's going on here. Now, for comparison, 850% move speed is about 10% faster than flying at
Death Knight.
Charb's coming in with the sub. Thank you so much,
hello,
man.
There.
Damn, 1 month away from a year. Thank you so much, Charves. I appreciate that. Death Knight of our Scourge.
In Khazalgar. And that is all before the boosts come in. And
That's insane because
fast.
dragon riding feels so fast. And he's saying it's how much faster than dragon riding speed is?
Is about 10% faster than flying at full speed in Khazalgar.
10% faster than flying. What the hell?
And that is all before the boosts
another
Moon coming in with the Prime sub. Thank you so much, man. Kicking off that hype train.
Come in and the boosts.
Thank you.
Now, if you control this with your keyboard and you get good at tapping and managing your drift, you will have fun. If you control it with your mouse, as if it's, say, a warthog in Halo, you probably won't have as good as a time. Now,
can I just say something has nothing to do with the video? This was peak, man. This was peak gaming. I remember doing this with my cousin. He came over. It was Friday after school. He came over, and we did this final mission together. I was the driver. He was the gunner. Oh, my God. This was such a good level, man. Yeah,
probably won't have as good as a time.
I miss Halo.
Now, overall, this is not quite as convenient as flying because, you know, there are roads to contend with. But that's the thing. This whole zone is built around D.R.I.V.E. So picture a densely packed circular city with motorways where you can drift around those motorways to get anywhere that you want. And if you want to know how quick this is, after practice, you can zoom from one side to the other side in about 15 seconds.
Damn.
So I suppose you could get the clickbait headline, World of Warcraft's new patch is 15 seconds big. And crazily enough, that's not with the fastest setup. Now, what's actually cool here, what's actually gameplay, is once you actually get the hang of this, you'll start to find all sorts of little tricks. One of the best things in a game is to learn and understand a new movement system, but then apply it to the world
that looks insanely. That looks uncontrollably fast, though. What the hell is that? Look how fast he was going.
Apply it to the world that you're in. And with this, you can slide through shortcuts, launch off ramps, soar over entire sections of goblin slums, and master the art of drifting to keep your boost meter charged, just like the best of the good old days playing Crash Team Racing.
There it is.
And it's that boosting that will let you stay way above your engine's base speed, which, you know, is already...
The thing is, with an increased speed and flying, it just doesn't feel that fast. Unless you're, like, skimming the ground, you don't feel the speed as much because you're so far removed from any objects passing by you. This feels uncontrollably fast because you are literally on the ground and everything's flying by you at 1,000% speed buff. What the heck?
Absurdly fast. Now, I'm going to talk about how some people will hate this later, because some will hate this, but
I
do
think
know
it's
this
cool.
right now. One good thing is that regular ground mounts do work here, and Undermine is not some big, sprawling expanse like, say, the Zaralet Cavern. Undermine is small, like it's bigger than the Siren Isle, but it's not humongously bigger. But I actually don't say that in a bad way, even though this is a major patch. It is extremely dense, you know, almost as if it's designed to be a city, so... If you don't want to...
The thing is, though, I get a little bit sad when I hear this because I don't think you have to sacrifice density for size. And Suramar is the perfect example. I've always said that's one of the best cities, if not the best city Blizzard's ever put in the game, because it was so unbelievably dense. Every single square foot of that place had something going on in it, and yet it was massive. That was a freaking huge city. So Undermined is a patch city. I mean, I guess what could we expect? It's, I guess we'll have to see how it feels, but I kind of wanted it to be bigger. I wanted it to be like this huge, sprawling underground city. Turns out what did he say? It's like, did he say it's the size of the Siren Isles? That's not that big, but I guess if there's a lot going on in it, it'll feel big.
Use Drive and you want to ride around in a regular mount, that's actually going to be okay. Now, let's compare this to skywriting, where there's a big difference. This is actually fun. That's a little bit hyperbolic, but, you know, credit where it's due. Whenever Dragon Riding came out, it was a massive improvement over the boring no-clip style of flight added in the Burning Crusade, and certainly I found myself mining for hours on end in this expansion, where I wouldn't have done that with the old flying system. But this is an entirely different thing. It really is. And Blizzard have actually paid a lot of attention to the details here. You know that they have been looking at drifting games, at proper kart racing style physics, because somehow They have nailed that in World of Warcraft, which I did not expect.
Yeah,
so
I didn't expect that either.
Corner, then boosting out of a real sharp turn is just satisfying in a way that flying could never be. It's that whole thing of there being a skill
Damn,
ceiling.
that is fast,
there really
man.
is one to this system, not just
people are going to
using
throw
it for
up.
control.
People are going to vomit playing WoW, especially if they have motion sickness.
But also mastery of the map. So when you learn the layout of the slums and you figure out how to control your angles, even just doing donuts or, you know, laps around the Intercontinental Hotel, those are unbelievably good. If you could do laps around Dalaran in one of these, you'd basically never be able to turn off World of Warcraft and you would die in situ. It's so good, in fact, that it's making it hard to test the other part of this patch on PTR. And that's because sometimes, when you're having so much fun driving about the place, getting out of the car to do world quests kind of sucks. Our next topic then is how...
Could you imagine how it feels the first time you get out after going like 1,010% speed and just start running around? You probably feel like the game is moving extremely slow. There's going to be like a big change up when you first get out of one of those cars to just running from place to place again.
D.R.I.V.E connects to the rest of this patch in the gameplay, and the answer basically is lightly. So in terms of progression, you can get different colors, different engine options, and all of those things from relevant sources like, you never heard these before, achievements, rares, treasures. But most of those are cosmetic things, and I suppose the things that do impact your performance, like different wheels for different handling, those... they're less upgrades, they're more just different configurations, and certainly for most players, I would actually recommend going with the lowest top speed car and the most grippy wheels. Yeah, you're not going to have some
who wants to do that now? Fuck that, I'm going full speed.
For just like getting around the place normally, it's probably going to be more practical unless you're perhaps like me and Matt and you really love this system and want to get the most out of it. Content-wise, well, there's a weekly quest for a chunk of reputation and all the usual stuff. It asks you to do 20 shipping and handling missions.
Yeah, you get Valor Stones from this. You get Valor Stones, 10 per each, and then when you fill 4 of them, you get 250 Valor Stones. That's going to be a nice way to get Valor Stones.
Out driving. You basically follow an
new
arrow
chat
at
list
your
or
own
whatever.
pace, then you hop out of the car to fight some mobs or click on some items for an NPC. Thrilling stuff. If you do like 10 of these in one go, it kind of is like a proper shift as a driver, and that will net you some rewards. Now, there is a timed version of this as well, but those don't look like they're offering any major rewards.
Maybe Unreal Blue.
I would certainly say, Blizzard, for those of us who kind of like the top end of this system, please do absolutely insane shit. Let us really push this to the limits. But at the very least, there are, of course, race world quests with rankings and achievements, just like with skywriting, which certainly is a good thing. Beyond that, then, this mostly serves as a way to get around quickly, which is a shame because a properly, timed delivery system like direct, crazy taxi gameplay would be absolutely amazing. But personally,
every time I see these,
a little tad defensive here because
this game was so. I don't know if you know this game, then you're of my same childhood here. And do you remember the song that would be playing? Do you guys remember it? Yeah, 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 yeah. If you know, you know. And if you've never played this game, you're like, what the fuck are you talking about, Sam?
Amazing.
Crazy Taxi was
I think
great.
Blizzard are being a little tad defensive here because, to be honest, having to practice taking corners and dodging random doodads can be frustrating. When I say doodads, by the way, that's not just me being weird and curmudgeonly. That's kind of like a game dev term for all of those little things that you see sprinkled across the world, which have collision and will stop you in your tracks. That's a bit of a
jarring.
thing. People will be put off by this when they first realize that they need to learn a new way of moving. It will take some time getting used to. And if that all seems a bit daunting, do not worry.
It's so jarring.
We will make the mother of all guides so that you can max out this system or just, get like the best opportunity cost version of it for you. Now, like with Dragon Riding, Blizzard have kind of taken a big risk here. They've added a new type of gameplay, and in a way, they're holding the faith that we'll like it. Now, Dragon Riding's a permanent feature, and most of us can't imagine life without it.
True.
Some people do like the older flying because it's less involved, and frankly, the type of flying that Dragon Riding is not really what they signed up to World of Warcraft for. And that brings me to my prediction.
You could pick.
This will be controversial.
How about this? Quit bitching. You can pick which kind of riding you want.
Controversial. It will be so much more controversial than Dragon Riding. Chapter title isn't lying. As somebody who loves this, I absolutely think a lot of people are going to hate this feature. And it would be very easy to say, oh, they hate it because they're not real gamers.
Let us lay waste to this realm.
Grid Dog, thank you for the sub on YouTube.
It's just not what they signed up for in World of Warcraft, and the moveset of a game is like so foundational
People
to
get
how a game
butthurt way
actually
too
plays.
easy, man.
If there's a game that you like and its moveset changes, I mean, you could just suddenly not enjoy it whatsoever. And one of the reasons why WoW has been so sticky to people for such a long time is just how snappy its animations and its movement feel.
That's true.
I think this feels great, but it's not what any World of Warcraft player signed
I mean,
up
people who are complaining, is it even required? It's not a requirement. It's just something you can do for quests and to get around the zone. My God.
for, right?
It
Just
so
so happens that the Venn diagram of, you know, my interests and things that I like and this just happens to line up really well. And what it would be all too easy to do is to say that, well, some people were skeptical of dragon riding, and certainly whenever I was on the beta for Dragonflight, it was always that thing where we'd all in the beta say, wow, this feels really good. And people in the comments would be just like, oh, gimmick, terrible, give me all flying, shit game, Blizzard have no ideas.
Oh, man.
And I think we were broadly proven right. But there's a big difference here. This is way more different than skywriting, and it is way easier to cock this up. And in a way, that's because it is so powerful. And it's one of those funny things. Blizzard have committed here. This is actually so fast that I question how fast you can go. Now, I suppose for Blizzard, there's a little bit of a strange situation here.
That's what I thought.
They want to say to people that this is faster than dragon riding, because they know that if there's a big new major patch zone and you can't
thank you. Okay, thanks for verifying, everybody.
Be furious, right? So Blizzard then says, don't worry, these actually go faster. But is it maybe too fast for the speed? You see, whenever you bump into...
Yeah, here's the thing about the speed. Like, I don't want Blizzard to just keep iterating on mounting in this game just by adding more speed. You know, I understand, you know, Lightning McQueen and Sonic would love this shit. But when I think of dynamic ground mounts, I think of, like, boosting, maybe, like, some cool abilities, like the ability, maybe like a swift... You know, a Spectral Tiger that goes in Viz or something like that. I don't know, like just some cool abilities based on whatever mount you're on. That would be cool. Dynamic ground mounts, that's what I'm expecting. The ability to like double jump or jump dash kind of stuff. I don't think that just adding speed constantly, like they're bragging about how fast this is necessarily like iterating on mounts and making mounts better. Now, I do think this looks cool. I do, and I'm excited to do it, but... I hope like that if they do ever do dynamic ground mounts, I hope it's not just like a, oh yeah, 500% buff to the speed. That's it. We did it.
Whatever in the world.
Or a big jump. Yeah, could be too.
Pretty bad sometimes. That doesn't feel great. Some of that is a little design thing. Some of it's just because
let us lay waste to this realm.
Schlizber. Thank you for the sub on YouTube.
Warcraft. But I suppose big picture, it's that funny thing where I'm brought back to a story. So picture this, it is the year 2017.
Oh, God.
Matt is a mythic raider, and he's progressing with his mythic raiding guild in Antorus.
Sure.
Hell of a raid.
Was a good raid.
They get to Iminar the Soul Hunter. Now, Iminar is a boss that asks something shocking from the WoW player. To play another game. Because it has a segment that is inspired by Frogger. Yeah. And funnily enough, it turns out that mythic raiders, people who sim their character, who are balls deep into the mathematics, just
they not like this?
Kind of shit at playing Frogger. And so Matt was there as this person who was mythic raiding, was good at the numbers and all of that, but also plays video games very broadly. And he's sitting there thinking, oh my God, these players, these mythic players at the top end of this game cannot play Frogger.
Here's a fact. Most MMO players are really bad gamers. It's a flat out. It's a statement by me, and it's a factual one. Most MMO gamers, put them in an FPS, put them in a MOBA, they are fucking trash. They are absolutely horrible. It's really bad. Whereas the opposite can be said. Like somebody who's really good at FPS, sometimes they're good at a lot of games. They're very fast twitch. They're good at a lot of stuff. MMO players, whether good or bad at the game, are only really good at MMOs. Beyond that, they just have a hard time.
Going on.
They are highly specialized. Yes, they aren't good generals.
World of Warcraft is World of Warcraft. This is not World of Warcraft. And those little times where Blizzard asks you to go off-piste in terms of mechanics and controls, they can be controversial. And versus dragon riding, this is way more off-piste. And because of that, I think a lot of people are going to bounce off it. And that's the thing.
But they can, right? It's just a questing thing.
Effort to learn the basics, to learn the ropes. you can then start to get in a flow state because your level of competency, basically, it's the flow chart, all of that research from Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, I think.
Focused
you can
and
really
happy.
hit flow with this system. But to hit flow, you got to put in just enough effort to really, well, for lack of a better term, fuck with it. But if you bounce off before that, you're not going to have fun.
First-person
Just like
shooter.
The people who drop into Plunderstorm don't really know what's going on, haven't learned a battle royale, and hate it. Whereas there's people who just persist for 30 minutes more, and they end up, like me, completely addicted.
I love it.
So yes, some people will hate it.
Love
Plunderstorm. In many
Plunderstorm.
ways, I do think this is the future. Dragon riding paved the way for sky riding. Will D.R.I.V.E. do the same thing? Will we be drifting around Silvermoon in midnight? Will you be doing donuts and some, donuts?
I don't know if it'll be the same thing, like this level of speed and everything else, but I think it is the beginning of dynamic ground mounts.
Around the Sunwell. I can't say, but there are some clues pointing in both ways. So, this is obviously a larger change than dragon riding was, and the implementation is still a bit strange, because this is not a special kind of mount like our dragons were. It's a weird part mount, part vehicle hybrid thing. It's essentially an ability that pops up in the zone. It's not anywhere in your mount collection, and it gives you the vehicle UI with a boost button and a few other little things. So it's not a mount. But on the other hand, the tooltip says that it's a warband mount. It's got the ground label, like a mount, and the vehicle UI goes away under certain circumstances. So technically speaking, it's a sort of weird hybrid, which fits this being a test. And I think it could be a test of Blizzard's greatest traditional strength, theft. Guild Wars 2 is obviously what I'm talking about here.
They have dynamic ground mounts, right?
Mounts. There are 9 different types, which range from the Griffin, which flies like basically our dragons, but slower and more punishing. There's the Raptor that goes pretty fast, but has got a big leap forward across terrain. You've got the Roller Beetle, which has, it's basically pod racing with like drifting and a boost meter. And there's way more as well, like a rabbit that's really good at jumping. Now, for years, those mounts, their customizations and their masteries have been a humongous draw to
Guild Wars 2 looks cool. I've never played it, but I always thought it looked like a nice game.
Guild Wars 2. And
they went all out on mounts years ago.
Monetized pretty damn big way for ArenaNet to actually make some money. But in that game, it's especially because it's got such a focus on evergreen, meaningful world content. It's an absolute no-brainer that Blizzard just yoinks that model from ArenaNet even more. But there's a problem. Cars drifting makes sense, and horses could drift if you gave them low-friction horseshoes and put a rocket up their arse for boosting, but wouldn't really make sense, would it?
And
if the drive gameplay was to make it out of Undermine, it would need to be slower, because right now this is the dangerous quantity of white powder up your nose take on a system like this. It truly is video games. I commend them for that, but man, it's kind of ballsy and risky. Now, as for the other mounts, look, it's pretty simple. You've
motorcycles
got D.R.I.V.E,
for sure,
but toned down a bit for the mechanical mounts, like your tricycles and stuff. Then your Hawkstriders and Raptors, well, those could just be put into being bipeds. Quadrupeds then basically handles the rest of them. You, on top of those kind of broad categories, could sprinkle in some flavor for individual types. As an example, hippos, horses, and elecs are all quadrupeds.
They could have really cool stuff for like specialized boss mounts, like with certain special abilities for their ground mounts. I don't know what like someone like Invincibles would be, but they could have really, really cool stuff. Maybe Invincible has the Death Knights wouldn't benefit from this, but the ability to run on water. Right, like that, because they can freeze the water. Like that would be really, really cool stuff that like specific, maybe boss related mounts or something. Like they get like one really cool ability.
A feeling they should be going at slightly different speeds with different handling mechanics. But that's all ideas right now, and I don't think Blizzard have planned that far ahead yet. They are going to wait and see how people respond to drifting around Undermine first, where the fast cars, asphalt roads, and reckless driving actually do make sense. Then, if we love it, I think they will put engineers to work to add this sort of thing across the rest of the game.
Yeah, I agree.
That is the playbook with every system and event that they've added to the game for years now. They test a limited version of it live, they gather feedback, they then do their internal testing, then they make a call. And they will want to make this work. Here's why. This could finally be the solution to a massive Blizzard problem and a massive player problem.
An 18-year-old problem. Hold on. You don't understand MMOs, Sam. If they have mount specials, that means there will be biz, which everyone will be using one mount all the time. There will be, I guess there will be best in slot mounts, but I mean, currently you need at least one mount to do certain things. I mean, running on water, is that a real advantage? I don't know. I don't know. There's biz mounts already though, like the big black log boy or the auction house. You know, he's got an auction house on it. Not everyone can have that because first of all, it's a store mount, and second of all, with the drop mounts, there's a drop rate to them. So I mean, as biz as it could be, at the end of the day, not everyone can have a mount, so there will always be a limitation to it. All mounts can run on water. Yeah, but it's okay. It's a bad example, but I'm just saying like that could be the kind of abilities I'm talking about. I don't know. I don't think it'd be a big issue. At the end of the day, it's not going to affect gameplay because we don't even have mounted combat, so it wouldn't matter.
And it's all because of flying. Since the Burning Crusade, every expansion has had a different relationship with flying and a fundamental problem.
Okay, right.
The design of the world often doesn't matter if you can just fly over it and go straight to your objective, which, I mean, world PvP, little bit dead. For us
Do these
players,
things still
very,
exist?
very convenient.
I see you linked this. Do these things still exist? I remember like these mount things that you could add to mounts. Did they iterate on this system, or is it gone now? Or is this like a little castable thing? Does not work in battlegrounds or arenas. Equip your mount with a slot. Yeah, do the mount slots still thing? Yeah, it is. I haven't seen mount slot items in forever. I feel like they just dropped that system. They don't iterate on it anymore.
But it also does mean, I mean, Blizzard rewards you with a ground mount in World of Warcraft, and you think, oh, gee, a ground mount, great. I don't care.
Right.
I guess my mount number has went up. That's all that I care about. Now, the Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King designed some areas based on flying, which was pretty great. MoP had no limits outside of patch zones. WoD added Pathfinder, sparking a whole giant drama. That was fun to cover at the time.
Geez.
And then we had the whole unlock flight through world content completion Pathfinder model as the default that continued for years until Dragonflight, and it still is alive to this day because basically you got to do Pathfinder to unlock old style flying, which really just feels vestigial and a bit pointless now.
Yeah.
Blizzard's problem then is really simple. How do they design meaningful world content that's like fun because of level design when players can just fly over it? And then for us players, well, why would you ever use a mount that doesn't involve dragon riding? And now that dragon riding is called sky riding and so many mounts can do it, you're just going to find one of those mounts that is good on the ground, but also can sky ride, and you're going to choose that as your default mount.
True.
And there you go. You probably don't care about collecting mounts anymore. I mean, they're all mechanically, at best, they're mechanically the same. At worst, they're a really cool ground mount that you've got no reason to use, which is a player problem.
I mean, I only use my ground mounts in raid and in dungeons, really, like where you can, because obviously you can't fly in those. But he's right.
It's absolutely true that skywriting was an improvement, but it still invokes many of the same level design problems. But hey, at least it is interactive, and with D.R.I.V.E, they have their next big shot. And so many ideas could come up naturally. I mean, flying up the Barrens in a drag race, drifting around Ashenvale in a car, which is not Warcraft. It's a bit of Warcraft. We've had vehicle-style mounts for ages. Warcraft, like, even before the MMO.
If it really gets enabled everywhere, I just wonder what it would look like to the passerby. Like, could you imagine how immersion-breaking it would be if you're like this level 5 night elf running through, or level 5 human, I guess, running through Northshire, and then all of a sudden, this cap-level person literally drifts right by you at such a high rate of speed that your refresh rate can't keep up to it, so it just looks like they're lagging across your screen. Because you know that's going to happen. To me, that kind of breaks the immersion of the game, right? Like, it's okay when you were a level 5 and then some armored horse runs by you. That was badass. That was a moment where you're like, oh shit, I want that. That guy's cool. But when it's like this fucking laggy ass 100,000% speed lagging right by you, it's yeah, not a good look.
MMO did have loads of goblin and gnome bullshit, but for this to go worldwide, it needs to support more than just the goblin or gnome fantasy. That means everything else, and that is a gargantuan amount of work. But before any of that, Blizzard, you've got things to fix for this patch first. All these grand designs and the hope of having dynamic ground mounts are going to be hurt if this ends up bouncing off the majority or even a significant minority of World of Warcraft players. And right now, there are some things
True,
that
reception
just
will
don't
matter.
really work as well. So, Blizzard, see all those fences and doodads around Undermine? Just delete half of them. Now, those are there in a way to challenge your mastery of the map and your control of your vehicle, but these are going so fast especially
those
as
light
compared
posts
to
are
what
going to be
we're
the
used to in
death of
World
me,
of
probably.
Warcraft, that half the time it does just feel like your car teleported into a fence and now you're not moving anymore. That doesn't feel great. There are also still some physics things, and also, like, whenever in a car game you drive into a wall, you normally bounce off the wall or something like that.
Right.
Here, though,
You just get
you
stuck.
just kind of go, you stop. There's not really any proper feedback. So Blizzard, try to work on some physics to perhaps deflect our
bouncing
cars
off of
instead
things would
us
be
just
better.
Getting halfway stuck inside an object, because
Clipping
when the
into
front
it.
bonnet of your car is literally clipping inside a wall, it doesn't really feel like a polished game anymore. And I know some of this is inherent to World of Warcraft, but that doesn't matter. That's a developer problem. And then keep tuning these controls, because this system shines on keyboard when you're really good at just tapping, A and D to manage your drift perfectly. And there's a version of this that would be amazing on a gamepad.
On a controller, yeah.
But we're conditioned to steer with our mouse. Like with our characters, with skywriting, that's how we all do it. I don't know if anybody skyrides with WASD. And that means that the fly-by-wire Halo Warthog style controls are just not really responsive enough for the drifting and boosting mechanics here. So ultimately, that's my take. I love this. This is so goddamn
I think
fun,
it's a good addition to the game.
It is too prescriptive to be an evergreen World of Warcraft feature. What I mean by prescriptive is this is quite opinionated as a design. I do happen to love opinionated designs. I think a designer has often really got to commit to a design so that there's a true target
races
audience
look fun.
instead of just generic slop that anybody could like. But World of Warcraft is a really big game, and I think that while this is
Blizzard's got to let you put gold on the line for these things. It'd be really cool. Or like a ticket. Imagine putting your vehicle itself on the line, just really going all in, like Need for Speed. What's it called? Underground or whatever. It'd be cool, man. Like you put in gold into a pot. Like everyone's got to put in 100 gold. Winner gets the pot. That'd be cool.
Really fun to people who love
Pink
kart
slips,
racing
yeah.
games, and likely to loads of other people as well. It certainly is a change.
That would create a whole mini game in this game.
That's why this is so specific to this patch, and it's why Undermine is not a vast, expansive city. It is a tight, dense city that you can use a regular ground mount in and absolutely get around the place really, really quick. And to further evidence Blizzard knows this is inherently a little bit niche, well, dragon riding was a change, but it was one that they thought would work, and because of that, they were comfortable to make it be an expansion feature. This is a patch feature, themed specifically around one zone that is designed for it. There is no way in hell that Blizzard are going to take this and copy-paste it to the rest of the game and call it an evergreen feature. But, this is the big thing. Before a game designer sits down and implements the actual thing you'll be playing, engineers have got to build how it works. New physics, new tooling, all of that. And yes, these are being used for this feature. But a lot of that stuff is foundational. And that is the stuff, the technology, the tooling, and the lessons that should inform how Blizzard rebuilds ground mounts.
That's true.
I think that World of Warcraft needs to rebuild ground mounts.
And not only that, if they add some physics into this, you think that it'll be limited to just ground mounts? Like, do you think if they create a vehicle ability where the vehicle kind of has like an actual hitbox around it that understands that when it hits something, it kind of creates like a bounce animation? Don't you think they could bring that to characters, to other mount variations, to boss fights, to make it part of mechanics? I don't know, bouncing off a wall. Like, that could open up a whole new world of mechanics in the game. It could be really cool. So yeah, I hope they iterate on this more and create more more environmental effects through it.
But not for the reason I expect is in the front of the development team's minds, which again is the age-old problem of we designed a really
which makes
cool
the game more
enemy
immersive
fortress,
too.
And now players just go whoop right over it. No, that's a game designer problem. Do you know what I think the big player-facing thing is? Ground mounts and mounts in general are really goddamn boring. They really are. I mean, there's mount equipment in World of Warcraft, but God,
that's what you guys were talking about.
Feature.
See, he literally just said it. He goes, "Who even remembers that's a feature?" I didn't even remember that was a thing, man. They have not done anything with it in forever.
No, what World of Warcraft needs is player rewards to be compelling, to be more interactive. One of the reasons why I'm very pro player housing is because I'm bored of being given pets, mounts, titles, achievements, and toys. They don't hit the same anymore. I want a new way to be rewarded. And if Blizzard are ever going to have the promise of unlocking a new ground mount be a cool, exciting thing, other than from just cosmetic or collection reasons, well, they need to build this system. That's it from me, and to learn about the rest of this patch, check out this video next.
There it is. I'm excited for D.R.I.V.E. I think D.R.I.V.E. is going to be a good feature. Will it be controversial? I mean, this is WoW. It's a community built of degenerates, okay? What fucking feature is not controversial? I swear to God. It's like they had a piece of transmog these days and everyone fucking loses their minds. But all in all, I think it's going to be a good addition to the game. I think it'll bring a lot to the game, and I think it is the baby steps towards dynamic ground mounts, which I do hope we eventually get.